I didn't go looking for ghosts. I went looking for a record. The Deane house used to be the superintendent's house for Fort Calgary, a dignified little place that survived the Dirty Thirties by becoming a rooming house. By the time I walked up its steps, the wood had learned a century's worth of footsteps and more than a few last breaths. They told me the worst of it happened in 1971, a murder-suicide. They didn't tell me what it would feel like when the house remembered. It was late afternoon, prairie light slanting bronze through old glass. I had permission to be there after hours to collect ambiance for a haunted Calgary episode. I brought a field recorder, an old 35mm, and a notepad with dates. 1930s fights, 1971 tragedy, staff sightings, a locked closet that doesn't stay locked. The front room smelled like furniture polish and winter coats. For a second, the floor felt buoyant, not creaky, soft, as if the plank beneath my boot forgot it was wood. I told myself it was a loose board. Then the sensation rolled forward, like a small wave passing under me. I steadied a hand on the banister. "Okay," I said out loud, chipper, like you talk to a skittish dog. "Just a building." The recorder ticked at my chest. From the living room you can see the hall, the old telephone niche, and the narrow stairs that lead to the attic. I set my gear on a side table beneath a framed photo of uniformed men squinting in Alberta sun. When I pressed REC, the room seemed to hold its breath. A thin sweetness drifted in, sweet but stale, like smoke soaked into curtains a lifetime ago. I don't smoke. No one there did. Still, the air bent toward that memory. Tobacco. Specifically the warm, cherry note of a pipe. I wrote it down anyway. Pipe scent. 4:13 p.m. Then the phone rang. There isn't a phone here, not one that works. The staff told me it's disconnected. But the niche buzzed with the tinny trill of a bell. 3 sharp peals like a bird trapped in a clock. I stared at the empty cradle. The sound stopped. I could see dust motes circling where a cord should have been, spiraling as if stirred by a fingertip. I let the recorder run and followed the hall toward the kitchen, past doors that once led to rented rooms when times were hard and tempers were harder. Somewhere up there, someone fought about money. Somewhere up there, decades later, a pair of vows curdled into a last argument. In a corner of my mind, a reporter's line I'd read years ago came back. A psychic touring the house said the walk felt like moving through gelatin, then saw a man chase a woman with an axe. I'm not a psychic. I'm a person with a microphone. But the house doesn't check your credentials before it speaks.
I heard rustling in the parlor, the kind of sound people make when they settle into a chair believing you won't notice. I turned back and found the wingback by the front window darker than the rest of the room, as if the light refused to sit on it. The smoke smell grew richer, and with it a dim outline of a man leaning where the cushion dipped, shoulders squared, chin high, a pipe balanced between the fingers of a hand that wasn't there. "Sir?" I said, because sir fit the posture, the era, the superintendent's resolve still baked into the walls. "I'm just visiting." No reply, just the faintest clink, like a pipe stem tapping porcelain. The temperature nudged down. In the glass of the window I could make out 2 figures, me in my jacket, and, behind, the seated man's reflection, clearer in the pane than to my eye. I raised the recorder. "Can you tell me your name?" I asked. In the headphones I caught a whisper that might have been the house settling and might have been a word in a gravelly throat. I'll hear it again later, slowed down to the shape of Robert or something that wants to be. Footfalls creaked on the stairs, soft, measured, coming down. I stepped to the hall as a man appeared at the landing. Not the pipe smoker this time. This one stood broad and ordinary, shirt sleeves rolled, face furred by shadow, as if he were half-carved from the dim. For a breath I thought he was a guard or custodian I hadn't met. He nodded once at me like we shared an awkward elevator ride. Then a taller shadow crossed him where the banister splits the light, and he thinned to absence, the way scent thins after a door opens. What remained was the sense of company. Not threat, just company. You learn to tell the difference. Past him, in the hall mirror, something else moved, low and to the side, as if peering from a threshold. A man with braids and a calm I felt more than saw, watching me the way one watches weather roll in. I lowered my eyes out of respect, and the watching eased like a hand drawn from cool water. This is an old city. The ground holds more than one story. The phone trilled again, closer now, as if the ring had stepped out of the niche and into the middle of the hall. The third chime failed halfway, like a breath caught on a sob. Then silence. I should have left then. Instead, I said what we always say before we climb. Just the attic, quick look, then I'm gone.
The attic stairs are narrow and mean, the kind that keep secrets by bruising shins. The door at the top had one of those old skeleton locks that look ceremonial even when they're useless. Staff keep it closed. We lock it and find it open, they'd told me. Half joking, not joking at all. It was ajar when I reached it. A toy-sized wedge of daylight broke the dark like a grin. I pushed, and the hinges gave a tired bark. Attics breathe differently from the rest of a house. This one breathed like it had run upstairs to cry. My flashlight skirted across beams, trunks, a forgotten cradle with one rocker broken, flakes of old insulation that looked like snow. Then it found the stain. At first glance, it looked like a maple leaf pressed into the floorboards, deep red with a blackened heart. Stain, attic floor, document, I wrote, kneeling. The board around it swelled like a thumbprint. When I leaned closer, the color brightened, wet red, impossibly fresh. I jerked back, the patch shrank, paling to rust, like breath fading on glass. That's not how chemistry works, I told the recorder, because explaining to an audience is how you keep from explaining to yourself. The closet stands near the stain, narrow, with a door that should have been locked. The old brass knob was turned to open, tongue of the latch swallowing air. Inside, a jumble of what staff swear they tidy. Moth-shot coats, a suitcase, a hat box, a Bible swollen with damp, a child's shoe. I set the shoe gently on the shelf and swung the door closed, fitting the latch until it clicked. I tested it. Solid. Something knocked from inside. Twice. The latch sprang. The door drifted open a finger's width, and the shoe shuffled sideways as if stepped over. I backed until my spine found a beam. Then the house decided I'd seen enough. The floor softened under my boots, the same gelatinous give I'd felt downstairs, only stronger, like standing on a chest that just inhaled. The air throbbed once, heavy with cigar smoke this time, darker and bitter, as if one memory had woken another. A woman's voice came up through the boards from the story below, a sharp line of speech clipped off mid-syllable. My light tremored across the stain, which brightened, spreading, red licking into the wood grain like ink pulled toward a blotter. I didn't run, I crawled, because running felt like the wrong verb in a place that had watched someone be chased. My knee knocked the recorder, it skittered, bumping against the stain, and I swear the stain reached for it, the way a drop of water reaches for a second drop, a tide of red trying to swallow plastic. I grabbed the device and stood ready to bolt, when the whole attic pitched, not much, not like a quake,
Just a sudden tilt so persuasive my body believed gravity had changed its mind. From the closet came the sound of things falling, boxes upending, hangers clattering, the tidy stack of somebody's life shivering into mess. I swung the door wider and saw nothing move, only the aftermath. The shoe I'd set on the shelf now on the floor, upside down, as if someone had shaken the room and pocketed one heartbeat out of it. Downstairs a thump, a second one, a pace, the rhythm of a person who has made up his mind. I shut the closet. The latch held, in that stubborn, temporary way a held breath does.
When I spilled back into the hallway, the light had cooled toward evening. The pipe sweetness was gone. The cigar lure lingered. I flicked the recorder to monitor the feed. Between my own ragged breaths, I heard another sound the mic favored over my ears. A drag and clant, as if a heavy object, an axe, a tool, kissed the baseboard with each step. The front room went soft again. Floor water, jellied air. If you've never felt it, you'll think I'm being poetic. I'm not. It's like stepping into the lowest octave of a church organ, a sound so deep your bones mistake it for movement. Something passed in front of me that was more temperature than shape, and the corridor unfurled into a tunnel of seconds I didn't want. A man moving fast, a woman backing away. The replay wasn't film, it was feeling. Panic has a geometry. It makes rooms longer. I didn't witness a murder. I felt a house that had, and it lent me enough of its memory to make me leave. The telephone rang one last time. I yanked the niche drawer open. Inside, where dust should have lain undisturbed, a finger had idly drawn a small spiral, the kind you make while waiting for someone to answer. "Enough," I said, to whomever, to all of them. "I'm leaving now." Something like relief loosened the hall. The cigar stink thinned to paper. The floor remembered it was wood.
On the porch, the air felt 4 pounds lighter. Evening had settled clean over the bow. The recorder ticked steady. When I played it back later, the attic portion carried a whisper under my own voice, a man's rasp you can hear if you raise the volume and darken the room. Lock the door. The closet will be locked again tomorrow morning. By afternoon, it will be ajar. As I walked down the path, the window of the front room brightened as if a lantern passed behind the curtains. A figure paused in the glow, shoulders squared, chin lifted, the patient posture of someone packing for a trip he never took. I didn't wave. The house had done enough remembering for one night, and I had enough to tell.